Good day, viewers. Hedda Gabler, a play by Henrik Ibsen, the famous Henrik Ibsen. Hedda Gabler is the beautiful daughter of the General Gabler, has recently married with Jürgen Tissmann, an academic who is facing financial hardship in attempting to satisfy his wife's grand and aristocratic ways. The two have just returned from their long honeymoon when the play begins, a journey during which Jürgen toiled away in archives and libraries. Mostly, however, he did find time to impregnate Hedda, who is ashamed for this fact to be aired publicly. Hedda also finds her new life with Tissmann monotonous and excruciatingly boring. The morning after the couple's arrival back in town, the action of the play takes place in September. They are visited by Jürgen's childhood caretaker, Miss Juliana Tissmann, or Aunt Julie, who dotes on her nephew. In the Tissmann's spacious, handsome drawing room, the two discuss, among other things, Jürgen's confidence that he will soon be appointed as a university professor, a prestigious, financially stable post. Aunt Julie also mentions that Jürgen's other aunt Rena is still very ill and that Jürgen's old friend and rival Eilert Lovborg is back in town. Several years earlier, Lovborg had gone on a space of drunken debaucheries and fell from social grace. Now, however, Lovborg has published a new book to enormous praise. At this point, Hedda comes into the drawing room. She says that she cannot manage with Bertie, the household maid, whom Hedda accuses of having strewn her old hat on a chair. Jürgen is appalled. The hat is in his aunt's, not Bertie's, and it is new. Miss Tissmann is offended and prepares to leave. Before she does so, however, Jürgen smooths things over by hinting that Hedda is pregnant, to Hedda's perturbation and Aunt Julia's great satisfaction. Soon after Aunt Julie's departure, another guest arrived, Mrs. T. Elfstad, an old schoolmate of Hedda's and old flame of Tissmann. She has come seeking Eilert Lovborg, whom she fears will replace now that he's back in the big city and surrounded by temptation. Hedda asks her husband to write a warm, friendly letter to Lovborg to invite him over so that they can keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, Hedda interrogates Thea and learns that she has scandalously come to town without her husband's permission and that she has served as Lovborg's helpmate and muse. Another guest then pays a visit to Tissmann's Judge Brock, who has helped Mr. Tissmann arrange his finances. Brack reminds Mr. Tissmann that he promised to attend his bachelor party to be held later that night. Brack also has some serious news. The appointment to the professorship which Tissmann is counting on might well be contested by none other than Eilert Lovborg. Tissmann is dismayed as this development threatens to worsen his already strained financial situation. After Brack's exit, Jürgen tells his wife that to save money she will have to curtail her social life. Hedda says ominously that at least she has one thing to pass the time with, her father's pistol. Later that afternoon, while Tisman is away at Han's house, Judge Brack pays another visit to Hedda. She playfully fires a loaded pistol at him as he walks up from the garden. Shocking him, the two at last sit in the drawing room and Hedda tells Brack about the hat incident. She says that she knew all along that hat had belonged to Aunt Julie and not to Bertie. Hedda also confides in Brack how monotonously miserable her married life is. Brack, for his part, insinuates that he would like to be more than a trusted friend in the Tisman household. Hedda implies, however, that she would never engage in an extramarital affair. Tisman arrives back at the villa and Loveburg appears soon afterward. Loveburg reveals that in addition to his newly published book, he has written a manuscript about the future course of civilization. He's poured his true self into his manuscript and he considered it to be like his own child. Loveburg also announces that he will not compete with Tisman for the professorship. To Tisman's great relief, Judge Brack invites Loveburg to his bachelor party, but Loveburg declines. He also declines to drink the alcoholic punch he is offered. While Tisman and Judge Brack drink, smoke, and talk in the inner room, Loveburg sits with Hedda in the drawing room, and the two pretended to interest themselves in photo album. Really, they whisperingly reminisce. We learned that the two of them had a very intimate relationship during their adolescence. One, Hedda violently broke off after threatening to develop a sexual dimension. Hedda threatened to shoot Loveburg at the time, but at last didn't. Loveburg accuses Hedda of fearing scandal and being a coward. Hedda agrees with him. Mrs. Elvsted enters and comes to sit in the drawing room with Hedda and Loveburg. Loveburg praises Thea's beauty and courage, and this inflames Hedda's jealousy. Hedda tempts Loveburg to drink, saying that the other man will think less of him. He doesn't, but Loveburg is firm in his principle. Hedda then reveals that Mrs. Elvsted came to the Tismans earlier that morning in the state of desperation, fearful that Loveburg would relapse, that Mrs. Elvsted demonstrably has so little confidence in her companion wounds Loveburg to his soul. He consequently delivers a grave toast and then drinks 2 glasses of alcohol punch. When Tisman and Judge Brack make ready to leave for the bachelor party, Loveburg announces, despite Thea's quiet plea, that he is going to join them. He promises to return at 10 o'clock that night. Mrs. Elvsted passes a sleepless night at Tisman's villa, while Hedda sleeps quite well. At 10, neither Tisman nor Eilert Loveburg has returned from the party. Mrs. Elvsted is panicked, but Hedda advises her to go into her bedroom and rest. Meanwhile, Tisman returns home. Hedda catches him tiptoeing in and asks how his night went. Tisman confesses to being jealous of Loveburg's manuscript. He also has a sad story to tell. Loveburg get debauchedly drunk, and while he was being walked home, he lost his precious and irreplaceable manuscript. Tisman, who had fallen behind the other man, found it in the gutter. Tisman says he must return to the Loveburg, but before he can, he receives a letter informing him that his aunt Rena is dying. Tisman hurries to her at once, leaving Loveburg's manuscript in Hedda's care. Just as Tisman leaves, Judge Breck enters. He also has some news for Hedda. After the party broke up and the revealers went their separate ways, Loveburg went to the saloon of one of Mademoiselle Diana, who is the madame or procurers of her brothel. What's more, Loveburg accuses Mademoiselle Diana or one of her prostitutes of robbing him. He started a fight over the matter, and when the police arrived, he even struck an officer and tore his tunic. Loveburg then had to go to the police station. Disgracing himself again, the judge advised Hedda to close her door to Loveburg from there on out. He excites. Soon after, Hedda hears an altercation in the hall. Despite Bertie's best effort, Loveburg enters in the state of confusion and excitement. Mrs. Ilfstadt enters also from Hedda's bedroom. Loveburg lies and says that he tore up his manuscript and scattered its 1,000 pieces into the ford. Mrs. Ilfstadt cries out that this act seemed to her as though Loveburg had killed a little child. She excites. Alone with Hedda, Loveburg says that his life is hopeless, and he confesses that he could not bring himself to tell Mrs. Ilfstadt the truth about the manuscript, namely that he lost it. He also reveals his intention to kill himself. Hedda, far from protesting, just asks that he do so beautifully. She tells him to leave and never come back. But before he goes, she gives him a memento, one of her father's pistols, to be used in carrying out his beautiful suicide. Loveburg excites. Once he leaves, Hedda takes his manuscript out from her bookshelf and feeds it into the fire of the stove. That evening, Aunt Julia comes to Tisman's villa to inform Hedda of Aunt Rena's death. Tisman comes in soon after, broke up about not only death of his beloved aunt, but also about Loveburg's disgrace. He says that he must return his manuscript to him. Once Aunt Julie leaves, however, Hedda confessed that she destroyed the manuscript to assuage her husband's outrage. She insists she did it out of love for him, so that he wouldn't be outshone by a bitter mind. This man is torn between doubt and happiness to learn this news. Mrs. Ilfstadt enters. She heard that Loveburg has had some kind of accident. Judge Brack enters soon after and confirmed that Loveburg is in the hospital, fatally shot in the breast. To everyone's shock and alarm, Hedda praises the courage and beauty of his suicide. Tisman, moreover, is wrecked by guilt. Loveburg's manuscript, which would have made its author's name immortal, is now lost to the wolves forever. Mrs. Ilfstadt says that he now entirely the case, because she is in possession of the notes that Loveburg used to dictate the manuscript to her. On the spot, Tisman and Mrs. Ilfstadt decide to team up and reconstruct Loveburg's work. Meanwhile, Judge Brack informed Hedda that Loveburg's death seemed not to have been an intentional suicide. He was shot at Mademoiselle Diana's saloon while raving about his manuscript. He also not shot in the breast, as Brack had previously reported, but rather in the abdomen. Hedda is disgusted to consider the fact that seemingly everything she touches becomes petty and farcical. Brack then reveals that Hedda will be implicated in scandal when it comes out that Loveburg shot himself with her pistol. Brack says that no one need now know that pistol was Hedda's, however, so long as he holds his tongue. Hedda understands at once that she is in the lecherous Judge Brack's power, a prospect she cannot endure. nor she can endure the prospect of her husband being away with Mrs. Elstead, working on the manuscript all the time, leaving her with only Brack for company. Hedda retires to the inner room, plays a wild tune on the piano, and then shoots herself on the temple with her remaining pistol. All in the house are horrified. People don't do such things, exclaimed Judge Brack. So this is the story of the Hedda Gabler by Henrik Ibsen, the play. Thank you very much.